What's up, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It's time for Nick at Night, my weekly comic book review show. Now, last week I asked you guys to hit that little hype button just underneath this video. I wanted to see what it would do to overall views and engagement and everything. And I will say that about 40 or so of you did that, and I didn't see any difference at all in the amount of views, difference between subscribers, non-subscribers, likes, anything like that. So I don't really know what that does. If you have any context, let me know down below. But thank you if you're participating in that little social experiment I asked you to do. The other thing is down below in the description, if you want to get caught up on some of these books, I'll have links down below there. It's a great way to help support the channel and get caught up on the conversation. Let's get into DC first, though. We have Swamp Thing 88 or Swamp Thing 1989 #1. So we have Rick Veitch on this one, and we have Zuli doing some of the artwork and the pencils and whatnot. This was a controversial series back in 1989. It was actually canceled. We have a few issues that are going to be coming out here very soon. So if you want to get caught up on the back half of that Rick Veitch story, now you can. Now, the reason it was canceled is because it has a lot of tie-in through like the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And so we get to see how Swamp Thing and the character of Jesus in this book actually met, so to speak, or at least sense each other's presence. Swamp Thing dealing with a lot of like crisis type events, wandering the cosmos right now. He's drawn towards Christ's power, and we get to see those two characters actually meet. And what I mean by meet is they don't necessarily have a conversation with each other, but there is a mutual respect and, like I said, a presence felt on both sides. We get to go through the early days before crucifixion into the crucifixion days, and so you can see why it would be a controversial thing at that point. But I am really glad that the team was able to pull it together and figure all this out to get these issues in our hands. So I think it's a big accomplishment that this was actually able to be printed, and we're gonna see the final end of this arc. I'm really excited for it. DC also had Zatanna issue #1. Jamal Campbell on this one, sort of his second volume with this character. I liked the first volume well enough. It had some really great compositions and artwork. Could get a little bit muddy. It's very over the top. And so the story itself was a little bit confusing too. A lot of characters, some double crossings and whatnot. So a little bit difficult to keep track of. Volume #2 feels like it's a step in the right direction. We have some interesting ancillary cast members that we're introduced to here, and we have a new understanding of like the magical hierarchy in the DC universe. This book is rather new reader friendly, I think, so we get to see Zatanna take on some early threats. She gets to flex her magical muscles, and we get a hint as to where the story is going to go and some of the people that she has to begrudgingly work with in future issues. Although I did have a good time with this book in general, I would have preferred a different creative team, unfortunately, on it, because I already know what Jamal's version of this character looks like. Did a good job with it, but I would have loved to see somebody else take a shot at the character as well. Next up is Batman Wonder Woman Truth issue #1, sort of a one-shot in the Batman Hush universe. Jeff Loeb is on this one, and Jim Chung is on this as well. So if you like that creative team, if you like that aesthetic, which I actually really enjoy, kind of sends me back a little bit, I think you're going to dig this book. It really does focus more on the relationship between Diana and Bruce and Batman and whatnot. So there are some questions, a lot of inner monologue, a lot of trying to figure each other out. That's part of the charm of this issue. The other main plot point is Diana's basically voluntarily giving up her lasso of truth to a museum. That museum is actually implementing some of the Wayne Tech security systems, and they're really wanting to test that system. Unbeknownst to Wonder Woman, Batman actually elicits the help from Catwoman to steal this artifact, and she does all too easily, and then it kind of builds into the drama from there. It's a complicated time for Bruce and Selina in this issue. We get to see a little bit of that. Some of the commentary with Wonder Woman as well. She doesn't quite trust anybody in Gotham. We see a variety of different Gotham villains as well, kind of peppered through the book, playing their very small roles. Nothing we can't overcome at the end of the day. And it was a charming one-shot. There's not a whole lot there, but there is a cool, exploratory part of like Diana and Bruce, their relationship, and Selina. And it's cool to be back in this time period, just witnessing another thing that happened. Let's go over to Marvel next with Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon issue #3. Chip Zdarsky on this. I think I'm done with the series. I don't want to be done with it, though. I want to know what's happening, and there's something going on here that's interesting, but honestly, at the end of the day, I don't really care about where we're headed, the different people that are involved right now, and I don't know if I care about what it would eventually build into. I think that's the main problem with Marvel books right now. I want to read Captain America, I want to read these other books, but I don't think that there's anything compelling going on there to really make me interested in seeing where it'll eventually go. The artwork is a little bit weak as well. I would figure that they would put like some of the best people they can find on the art. Not a knock as to what Luke is doing, but I really think that I expected more from this kind of a book. Basically, Wolverine is dealing with some sins in the past. We have Duke thrown in here as well. We have a new Weapon X program spinning up. We know that there's other versions of Captain America out there. We get introduced to some of them inside this issue, but again, it's building towards something, and I'm just not too interested to be along for the ride. All right, next up is Ultimates issue number 23. We have Dennis Camp on this one, and we have Morian doing the interior artwork, which completely threw me off. They're working together on Bleeding Hearts right now. They've done 20th Century Men. Morian was also on Soot Stained Heart recently. All those books have incredible interior artwork, and I was really excited to see him coming over here, over into the Ultimates, and taking on this Thor story. And that's really what this is. It's a Thor-focused book. He's amassing his ranks right now to take on Loki and his armies, and it's very poetic in nature. Dennis Camp has this alliterative poetry that he uses throughout the entire issue to help tell the story. Not exactly something I gravitate towards, but I really respect the effort and the execution of it. But for me, the biggest thing is the interior artwork. It's absolutely incredible. Every single page seems like it could be a poster. It has like this painterly style. His ability to switch how he does his characterizations. It could be real cartoony and more rough. It could be more detailed. It could be ghostly. He has an amazing way of adapting what he wants to draw on each page. So big shout out to that guy. I'm going to be paying attention to everything he puts out in the future. Next up is Tony Millionaire over on Oddball Odyssey. This is from Bad Idea. If you're not able to get those books, work with your shop. Maybe they can set up that partnership. I think it's a little bit easier nowadays than it was in the past when it first came out. But Oddball Odyssey, I think it's going to hit a lot of lists. They had a lot of different variant covers. They had some Mickey Mouse variants as well. So you might see those on those top 10 lists that are floating around. But interesting book. I didn't really know what to expect. First off, it's extra size. I think it's like $7.99. It's got newspaper print. It's mostly about a bunch of these different creatures who are trying to understand love and desire and partnership. They're traveling these mysterious lands and they're trying to find things that they desire. And so it does have a little bit of a poetic nature to it as well from the or from the writing perspective. I think as an overall package, though, it didn't quite work with me. I think there was really great moments inside there, and I appreciated the effort and just the design, the look and feel of it, particularly the interior artwork. The story didn't quite grasp me, but I think the message behind everything did. Let's go over to IDW Dark. We have Quiet Place Storm Warning issue number 2. If you're a fan of the movies, I think you're going to dig this book. They do a great job of exploring some new characters in the Quiet Place universe. We have this isolated town that's on this island over by the Mississippi, and it's taking place somewhat in the events of when it first happened, when the asteroids were coming down or whatever they were, and they brought that alien threat to Earth, but it also kind of bounces back and forth to more present day. So there are some flashback scenes, specifically in issue number 1, but you do see them in issue 2 as well. What's really cool is just the dynamics between the different characters. We had a group of people that were denying everything that was going on, like, it's fake news, you can't trust any of this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, some people were taking precautions into their own hands and kind of pissing people off at the same time, but you know, who was right at the end of the day? It's also fun to see some of the people that were a little bit more, this isn't really going on, turning heel completely and now living in this post-apocalyptic world. It does have a couple callbacks from the movies about how the humans can use rain or other noise and distractions to their advantage to get around these monsters. So there's nothing quite new from that point of view. It's just the same kind of story happening in a new place with new characters. Next up is Lorenzo De Felicis over on Redroo Roots issue number 1 from Image Comics. I think a lot of us are going to be grabbing this book because it's a familiar artist taking on this writer, artist, colorer role. So I'm excited to see what he was able to put out. I got to be honest, the solicitation didn't do it for me when I first read it. I just trusted the creator on this and the fact that it was a new Image number 1. The solicitation basically is showing the comparison between school teachers and mass murder or serial killers, something like that. Is what we kind of get in here, but there's way more than that in this story. Now, those characters do exist inside the story, but we have this ex-Delta guy who is basically a hired killer. He's infiltrating some crime boss that had done him wrong in the past, killed one of his partners. We have that going on as he's going through the levels, taking out hordes and hordes of these mobsters. But we also have this school teacher who's just going about her day, talking to other teachers, dealing with class, things like that, unwinding at the end of her day. And we get to see how they cross towards the end. And it's not what you think, right? They're not like finding each other and having to deal with each other's drama. There's more of a ghostly spiritual thing going on, maybe even like a fantasy element that we're going to be introduced to here in the next couple of issues. And I'm excited to see where it goes. So if you were turned off by this book's solicitation in general, didn't quite see that it was going to be something other than that, it's way more than that so far. So I'm curious to see where the story goes overall. And let me know if you guys read it, what you guys thought. All right, next up we have Remender over on Sacrificers issue number 21. The epic conclusion of this story, probably one of Remender's best series that he's ever put out, in my opinion. This series explores a lot of interesting themes and different meaning and whatnot. It's basically a world where its foundation was based on sacrifices. So the gods themselves are rejuvenated by the sacrifices of their patrons. And so there's a secretive thing around all of that. And when that gets unleashed, when that gets known to the public, the whole system essentially crashes down. A new regime of the people that were uprising, right? They're starting to take things over. They're trying to not implement the same kinds of things that held them down for generations and generations, but it's not sustaining. Whatever they're able to come up with is also not sustainable as well. And we get to see another version of that uprising coming for them when they had the best intentions in the world. Max Remora on the art, doing some of the best work of his career, I think. There is a #1 like work in progress or giant generator version of this. I really recommend going to try to find that. They're very fairly priced, 11 by 17, all black and white. You get a little bit of a taste as to what this guy's capable of, and we see that peppered out throughout the entire series. The ending also took some shots, and it went to a direction I did not expect. Like, the inevitable thing would be, we have a great big battle at the end and everything is wiped out essentially, but that's not necessarily how it ends. We have a new beginning, so we're going to be setting the new foundation for how the world's going to work in the future, and who knows if it'll work out. Next up, we have Jorge Fornes over on Silent Missions, G.I. Joe. We have Firefly in this one, a character that I know nothing about, which is why I really like these silent issues. It's a low barrier to entry. You can get in there, you can see something fast-paced and amazing, and you can jump out, and maybe you'll find this character later. Firefly seemingly has somebody he's looking for. He's trying to find this secret prison. He has to infiltrate the Cobra base first to get some more data as to where this person might be located. There's a lot of great usage of composition and panel work, your eyes going all over the page. So I think from a visual point of view, as you would have to since there's no writing, I think it does a great job of just telling that story. Fornes is joined by Dave Stewart on the coloring side, so that certainly helps tell that visual story. Most of these silent issues have been hitting pretty hard. I think Crimson Guard is still my favorite one of all of them so far, but we had Baroness a little bit while ago. Zartan was a little bit of a miss. We had some others peppered in here and there, but Firefly, again, without knowing a whole lot about the character, and you still don't towards the end, you at least get a really cool visual heist, kind of a break-in sort of an issue, and it kind of leaves you open with some more questions that you might want to explore later with this character. All right, next up is White Sky issue #3. So, I mean, a hot book when issue #1 came out. So how is the story progressing so far? I will say I'm still a little bit lukewarm on this series in general. I don't know how I feel yet about the ghosts being that zombie element in this post-apocalyptic world. I think it works. I think it's getting more interesting when we have a medium joining our group right now. Like, he has these other abilities and senses and things like that that we can explore and try to figure out how we're going to integrate that into this world where, again, ghosts are the zombie character. So far, the other members, the human villains that are trafficking people for salt mines so that we have lots of salt to do some kind of protection spells and things like that. Like, parts of that were clever, but parts of it are things that we always see in these types of stories. So I think in the areas where this story is trying to set itself apart from the zombie part, I think it's doing some interesting things. The whole salt thing, that's why we're trafficking humans. The medium, like I said before, coming into the mix. I think it's doing a good job of adding its unique flavors to an otherwise idea bankrupt story. Art-wise, it's hit or miss too. I think some scenes are portrayed really well. Some of them I could use a little bit more. There's a lot of white, and I mean, I know we're leaning into that white sky theme, but man, there's a lot of white scattered out through this entire thing. I like a little bit more of my backgrounds, a little bit more in between my panels as well. So maybe a small criticism, but it's something I notice as I read this book versus other ones. And if that's really the point of the book, is to put you in that kind of a mindset where you're blinded by how bright this entire world is, then, you know, message received, I got that. But I also see that in some other books that don't take those other things into consideration. All right, next up is Do Not Disturb, issue #3, really blowing out the world, really exploring how the users interact with this Argyle hotel and the consequences of what happens when they actually leave the premises. Now, if you're not familiar with the series in general, it is a combination of a lot of different things. It is a crime, mystery, noir type of a book, and it's also centered around this particular hotel with these very special properties. Our main detective is going around trying to gather some more information about this woman who is missing, presumed dead, and there is some inconsistencies on how this world works when it comes to this particular character. Not only that, but we understand a little bit more about the limitations of the building and what's on the other side of it. So there's some pretty cool things happening here. Again, it's a mixture of a lot of different genres. The artwork is great inside this book as well. A lot of cool perspectives, a lot of interesting shots, great character design, good architecture use in general as well. So if you're into the whole crime detective, you like a little bit more of a spiritual type of a book, I think you should try this one if you haven't yet. Next up is Ted Okay, issue number 3 from Mad Cave. We have David Krisham on this one. This is a really interesting issue because, again, it does what issue 3 should do. And issue number 3 in a limited series should really blow everything out. We've set the foundation in 1 and 2. We understand the basic concepts, but the world should explode and more conflicts, more twists and turns should happen in that issue number 3. That's exactly how it's handled in this one. We had some massive revelations, not only on just the world in general, the relationship between our two characters, but on Ted as well. Like, is he who we think he is? We get a hint of that towards the end of this issue. We also get to see some of the conflicts, some of the people that we've been up against this whole time kind of shine a light on our insecurities and like what is exactly going on. So far, everyone has been kind of playing it close to the chest. Like, everyone knows something is wrong. This is the issue where everything is laid out on the table. We understand who's who, and we get to see where we're going to go from here. And it's leading to something really dramatic and kind of unnerving at the same time. The artwork has a lot to do with that. Everything in this world seems sickly, seems dirty, seems whatever, but it has this futuristic vibe to it as well. So there's a lot of interesting things kind of fighting in your mind at the same time. It's continuing to be a really interesting book. Issue number 1 and 2 were very weird. 3 is exactly the same thing, but like I said before, it does a great job of blowing out that world, and we have a lot more things to figure out still. Next up, we have Mark London and Jamie Infante over on Honor and Curse issue number 2. Now, this is also from Mad Cave. Again, it's a blend of a lot of interesting themes and everything. So if you like samurais, if you like spiritual inhabitants inside samurais, if you like the legend and lore of like family trees and how it can propagate over generations and amass wealth and whatnot and influence and power into the future present day, that's kind of what this book is as well. But what happens when one of your rivals starts pruning those branches a little bit and starts shrinking your clan over time? It's also about our main character having to tap into this spirit that he's pushed down for generations now. It's like, I'm very formidable. I have a samurai background. I can take on these threats. But what happens when our enemy is augmenting himself to the point where you have to give into that temptation and unleash that beast? And that's really all this issue is. It's one big battle scene of our guy getting in there just trying to get some answers. It is over the top. It is gory. So if you like that kind of stuff, I think you're going to dig this book. If you shy away from it, then maybe put this one on the back burner. There is some cool battles going back and forth between this spirit self and our main character. And so there's always going to be that tension there they're going to be exploring. I can't imagine there's going to be a point where he completely retires that and doesn't have to rely on that power going forward. I would imagine that he's got to fully embrace it at some point and then have to deal with that later on. It's kind of like a symbiote kind of a thing. It's like, do I want to embrace this or do I not? There's consequences both ways. Next up is 51, issue number 2 from Mad Cave. Of course, we have Kurt Pierres and Jock J.O.K. on this one. This was a fun book. It certainly has that self-published vibe to it, or has that independent vibe to it. It's basically about what happens if you put a bunch of delinquents together to manage the inventory over at Area 51. There's access to all kinds of alien technology or classified stuff out there. What happens if it gets raided and they have to be tasked with retrieving that stuff and kind of saving the world at the same time? Issue number 1 really focuses on the characters, who they are, where they came from, them meeting for the first time, setting that foundation. Issue number 2 takes it in a completely different direction with one particular character. We understand a lot more about that character's backstory and their role on this team. There's a great use of technology shown in here, some of the alien technology, and we're really blowing out the world again inside this issue, which is something really great to see. I think it had a lot of crazy ideas and premises behind the issue number 1. We're evolving that inside of issue number 2. I did lose the sense of like some of the characters in issue number 1, though. I couldn't quite remember who was who, and things are a little bit messy from that point of view, but I was really entertained by where the story took us in issue number 2. Next up is from Midnight Factory. We have issue number 1 of Murder Hobo. This is Ryan Brown, but it's not the Ryan Brown you know from Lucky Devils or 8 Billion Genies. This is Ryan G. Brown, but the interior artwork is still pretty fire. This book is really over the top. It has a playful dork kind of a vibe to it to give you a reference of something a little bit more recent to lean on. It is a RPG-based story, so essentially we have a fantasy setting. We have our murder hobo. He's with goblins and demon orcs and whatever else, magical beings. It's set back in the day. It's like a medieval type of a book. They're putting together basically like an RPG group, and they are putting their services out there to fulfill any kind of quests that people might have for them. The dialogue and the characterization characterizations are over the top. They're gross, they're disgusting, they're vulgar. There's lots of debauchery going on throughout the first part of this issue before they really hone it in and be sent on their first mission. So if you don't like that kind of stuff, maybe shy away from this one, but you can lean into it if you enjoy that kind of stuff. It has a Ren and Stimpy gross quality to it as well, which is something I noticed as I'm reading this issue. It's like they all end up getting sick, and there's a real focus on that towards the start of this book. But eventually it's going to turn into a thing where we have this new guy in town that's doing the same kind of thing for people. Like he's putting his services out there, first quest for free type stuff. So if you need a job done, hire me instead of these goons over here. So it's going to be a battle between those two groups, I think. And it's going to be insane just knowing the characters and how they're written so far and the kind of world we live in right now. So there is a lot of interesting things happening inside the story. It is a little bit too gross and too over the top for me to really care about what's going on with the next issues, unfortunately. But if you lean into that kind of stuff, definitely check this one out. All right, guys, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know down below what you picked up and what your favorite books of the week were. And again, while you're down in the comments, go down to the description. You'll find links to these books down there. It's a great way to help support the channel, and you can get caught up on the conversation. But make sure you hit that bell notification button. That way you'll get notifications on whenever I put out new videos. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the comments.